to the Felicity Yarn Studio channel. My name is Zoe, and if this is your first time here, a big welcome. Thank you for checking the channel out. This is my space where I like to share my knitting and spinning and yarn dyeing and all of that good stuff within the fiber arts. And of course, if you're a returning viewer, a big welcome back. As always, I am always thrilled to have you guys here with me today to sit down and chat about some making. If you want to find me on social media, I'll leave that information for you here on the screen. You can also find that down below in the description box where you'll find show notes as well and links to things that are relevant. I hope that everybody is doing well. We are one day post-election, so that's all I'm going to say about that. Yeah, I wanted to go ahead and sit down and record because I have a lot of stuff to catch up with you guys on, and it's just a nice way for me to escape kind of the craziness of the real world at the moment. So I actually think up front I want to talk about spinning real quick. I have been working on my Jupiter spin. If you haven't been around, I have been spinning up some fiber to knit the Jupiter crop by Caitlin Hunter. I am shamelessly stealing this idea from Naomi. She's my sister. She is the yarn curator, and she also has a channel that you guys should go check out. And also Gemma B Makes. Gemma also spun up yarn to knit her Jupiter crop, and it turned out really beautiful. So I was inspired by both of them and I really wanted to start spinning something that I was actually gonna knit. I kind of was working on something, but it was taking way too long. So the most recent color that I have finished is this pink. It's kind of a berry or like a rose pink. There is some variation of some darker spots in there. I finished plying it a few weeks ago and I just never wound it off the bobbin. I need to go ahead and do that. So this is going to be my main color, and then my first contrast color, and then third and fourth contrast color. And I have spun up both of the singles for my last contrast color here, this kind of like eggplanty plum purple color. I've dyed up everything except for this colorway, which is some fiber from John Arbon. It's the colorway The Beautiful Ones. It's some fiber that Naomi had sent me. So since the last time we spoke, I spun up both singles and plied this one, and then both of these singles. I finished these a couple nights ago, and I'm just waiting. They're probably about ready for me to go ahead and ply together, letting some of that twist set. So yeah, I'm really excited to get this swatched and figure out kind of where my gauge is so I can go ahead and get that pattern cast on. I feel like I have a lot of things going on, but at the same time I feel like I've been finishing a lot of things, but I don't know. I've really been itching to tackle this for two reasons. Number one, I do want to go ahead and knit the sweater. I think it would be a really nice winter piece in my wardrobe. Yeah, I'm just really looking forward to spinning some new things. So I'll go ahead, and this kind of segues me into my first finished object and kind of where my spinning mojo is going lately. So my first finished object is my Handspun Socks. So I spun up some sock fiber. It was superwash merino nylon blend. I think maybe 75-25 or 80-20. I don't remember exactly. But this came from Wound Up Fiber Arts. And this is the colorway Say Hello. And I did a 3-ply short forward worsted spin. So I tried to, you know, compress as much air out of those singles, and I really wanted to make it like as strong of a yarn as possible. That's why I decided to do a 3-ply. And I think I wound up with somewhere around a sport weight yarn. I got about 390 yards altogether. This is a little bit that I have left over. So I'm really pleased with, number one, how these knit up. I think they are just so charming. And they're completely unique. No one would ever spin up the fiber exactly the way that I did and, you know, wind up with this exact pair of socks. So I love the fact that they are also sisters and not twins. They kind of complement each other really nicely. They're also incredibly comfortable. Surprisingly, I don't know why. I think I expected them to be a little bit kind of knobbly because of the way that Handspun works out. Sometimes you wind up with those like thick and thin spots, but I actually think that somehow makes them a little bit squishier. Maybe it's just my imagination. But yeah, I knit the purple one first. It was toe down, and then I just went on ahead and did the afterthought heel from the same place in the yarn, and from there I started with the second one top down as well. So yeah, I went and I found a sport weight sock pattern, and I just took the cast on number from that. I knit these on size 1.5 US needles. Not sure what that is in millimeters, but I usually knit on size 1s for my fingering weight socks. Anyway, I love these so much that I have kind of gone a little bit crazy purchasing more of this fiber blend from Wound Up. She just dyes really beautiful colorways. I really love the style of the dyeing on the fiber. It's, I guess you would call it kind of speckly. So I have 2 braids that have arrived in the last few weeks or months since I started working on those that I'm kind of torn about which one I want to work with next. So let me know down below which one you think I should spin. They're actually pretty similar, but this one is called Stone's Throw, and I just really love this kind of neutral palette with the golds and the grays. I think it's a really beautiful kind of moody fall color palette. This one's also pretty moody. This is called Ghosting, but you've got kind of the like maroons and kind of like burnt oranges instead in there. So, I mean, either one is going to make a really gorgeous pair of socks. I also kind of thought about spinning both of them and maybe like plying them together to kind of get an even more unique combination. And then I would have enough for 2 pairs of socks. So I don't know, we'll see. I'm leaning towards this one, the Ghosting, but then I'm like, this one is also beautiful. And I have at least 2 more of her braids in my stash, but they're kind of more summer colors, and I'm saving them for when I'm ready to kind of work with those colors. Right now, with it being fall and winter setting in, yeah, I don't know. Let me know down below which one you think that I should spin up. So I need to steal my sock blockers here real quick because my next finished object is another pair of socks. So these are the Spree socks. This is a free pattern by Kemper Wray. She is the dyer behind Junk Yarns, who actually dyed the white and the green in my Sunset Highway here. That was a complete coincidence. I didn't even think about that when I pulled this on today. But this yarn is by Art and Alchemy. There's the label. This is colorway Partly Sunny, and it is a 100% superwash merino wool. Again, it's a DK weight, and that's what this pattern is written for. So this is the skein that, or one of the skeins that Naomi gifted me while she was here. And you know, once it was sitting out waiting to be added to the stash, I just couldn't keep my eyes off of it. So I went on ahead and I caked it up right away. Naomi had thought maybe it was a self-striping yarn based off of the way that it was skeined up, but I think it was just a variegated skein that got re-skeined before it got sent out. But it's still a really beautiful colorway. I love the way that it worked up on these socks. It's just a really lovely blend of the pastels, and you get little pops of the blue. Yeah, so these worked up incredibly quickly. Also, I'm normally a fingering weight or sock weight sock knitter. But the pattern called for size 4 needles. So I finished like one sock in 24 hours, and the next one I would have finished in 24 hours, but my hand was starting to hurt a little bit. So they worked up incredibly quickly. I do have about 35 grams of leftover yarn here, so I do wish that I had been able to utilize a little bit more on the leg, since it is a cuff down pattern. But now I know for in the future that I can probably add another, you know, 5 or 10 rows on the leg to get those a little bit longer. Nonetheless, they are incredibly comfortable. I was actually wearing them around the house yesterday as soon as I finished kitchening the second toe. And they are 100% superwash, so there's no nylon in them, so I'm probably going to keep them as house socks. And also because they're DK weight, they're a little bit bulkier than, say, sock weight socks are. But since they're 100% merino also, when I did take them off and wash them to get them blocked, they do feel a little bit loose right now, so I'm going to go ahead and pop them in the dryer. They're still a little damp from when I washed them yesterday, just to let them kind of cinch back up. Not for very long, maybe like 5-10 minutes. I find that's usually all that it takes when I block or I wash a 100% superwash item, especially in DK. I feel like that tends to grow a whole lot. Like I've knit a basic raglan pullover. I think that's the whole name of it. It's a Joji Locatelli pattern, and it's 100% superwash in DK, and that thing always grows like almost twice as big whenever I wash it. So I always have to pop that in the dryer right before it's completely dried. And yeah, it just takes like 5-10 minutes to really kind of set things back up right to where they need to be. So I did have one thing to say about the pattern that I came across, and that was on the heel turn. I knit the largest size, so the instructions for all of the like heel flap and heel turn and even the toe decreases, there's no like per size instructions. It's all just the same, like it's like knit 13 and then wrap and turn, or whatever the instructions are like on the heel flap or the heel turn. But I found that for the largest size, in order to make the heel turn work out evenly, I actually had to do knit or purl. I forget if it was knit or purl. I had to do 15 stitches instead of 13 stitches. So 13 probably works for the two smaller sizes. I'm gonna just make a note of that on my Ravelry page, so if anybody ever needs to come back and reference this. I didn't see any other notes about it on Ravelry, but I also didn't read like all 300 pattern notes that people have taken over the years knitting this pattern. So I just wanted to throw that out there in case anybody you know, wants to knit these or has knit them. That being said, it's a free pattern, so no complaints here. I'm going to backtrack real quick because I just found this in my pile of things. I loved the knitting the Handspun Socks so much. I actually went through my stash, and I've had this skein of yarn that Naomi actually spun for me probably almost 3 years ago, and I've always wanted to knit socks out of them, but I wasn't really sure how that would work up. So I went on ahead and I caked up this skein of handspun from her that I am going to knit my next pair of handspun socks out of while I spin some more. And this, I want to say, is like a bamboo silk wool blend. I don't know. I know I've asked her like 8 times what this fiber content is, and she always sends me to her Ravelry page, so I just need to go back and reference this. But anyway, I just know that it is an acceptable blend for socks. Silk, while it seems a little bit, you know, like decadent to knit socks out of silk, I guess, it is actually a very strong fiber and will work in place of nylon. I think bamboo also, so I'm not 100% that it has bamboo in there, but I know it has silk. Maybe it's a Polworth silk blend. don't know. She's probably yelling at the TV right now though. So yes, next Handspun Socks. So the last finished object that I have to share with you guys is ridiculously cute. This is the Verde Cardigan by EweKnit Toronto, and it is also a free pattern on Ravelry. I'm sure you can get it via their website as well. But this is for my niece that is due in January. This is the skein of yarn that I picked up from Cheers to You in Charlotte. I don't remember what suburb of Charlotte they're in, but it was the yarn shop that Naomi and I visited when she was here a few weeks ago. It does call for buttons all the way down, and I've made buttonholes. I actually sewed this one on last night, and I'm not really happy with the placement, so I need to actually take that off and re-sew it on. But this was another really quick, really satisfying knit. It was a lot more purling than I'm used to, even though it's just this little tiny baby cardigan. I knit I started off knitting the 0 to 3 months size because she is due in January, and then somewhere along the raglan increases, I think I made one extra increase, and it actually wound up being closer to the stitch counts for the 3 to 6 month size. So it's somewhere in between 0 to 6 months. How about that? But I was really worried about yarn chicken. This is how much yarn I wound up being left over with, because I only had one skein of this, and it is Hedgehog. This is Hedgehog Fibres in the Merino DK base, and it is the colorway Pistachio. So like the socks that I knit, this pattern called for size 4 needles, US size 4. I think that's 3.5 millimeters. And the fabric on the garment was turning out really, really stiff, and I was kind of worried about it being a little too structured, maybe is the word. But then when I blocked it, as you can see, it's kind of softened up and it has a little bit more drape to it now. So I'm really happy with that. But also I wasn't going to be too mad at it being pretty dense. Dense is the word that I was looking for. Since it is meant to keep baby warm through the winter months. So yeah, this is so cute. So cute. What can I say? And I really love the colorway. It is just soft and girly without being too girly. It's perfect. I actually for once happened to have all of the buttons that I needed. That actually was kind of like what I was picturing in my mind in my button stash, because I don't know about you all, but I have like 3 containers of buttons. And I feel like I never have the right buttons for the right project. So that was really satisfying to go through and find that the other day. So while I'm on the subject of baby knits, the first whip that I will share with you guys, if I can get it untangled here. This is the baby blanket that I am also working up for my new niece. So I was down here where the stitch marker is on the last time that you guys saw this. I just cast this on a whim while Naomi was here. This is some Karen chunky cakes in the vanilla bean colorway, I believe. But I just took the Grandma's Favorite Dishcloth pattern. I just kind of increased out until a size that I kind of had in mind, and then I didn't want it to be square, I wanted a rectangle. So the Grandma's Favorite Dishcloth pattern is a square shape, so it starts at the corner and you increase out till it's the width that you want, and then you decrease back up. So in order to get a rectangle shape, I increased out until it was about as long as I wanted on one end, and then you decrease along one end and you keep increasing along the other. So I've reached the length that I want on this end now. So now I'm decreasing on both ends to get it to close back up. I hope that makes sense. if you've not ever done anything like that before. So yes, I'm on the downhill now. This is decreasing, and I just intended it for it to be like a stroller blanket or for something in the carrier in the car during the winter. I just wanted to whip something up really quick for her. And I'm planning on finding a ribbon that I can kind of weave in the little openings that you get here. If nothing else, I've kind of thought about, I can just buy a white ribbon and maybe dye it to match the pink color in there. So yeah, this has been kind of my mindless, I don't really want to pay attention to what's going on knitting. I think I can actually probably knock out the rest of this in one night if I sit down and really buckle down onto it. I think I have 2 more whips to share with you guys. The next one is going to be my Plumpkin Spice socks. So this is my fall colorway, or one of my fall colorways. It was like my main fall colorway this year that I have dyed up for the Etsy shop. So if you are interested in hand-dyed yarns, I have some on Etsy, also under the name of Felicity Yarn Studio. And I am tangled up for one thing, but I am just about done with the leg on these. Now, if you've watched the last few episodes, you will know that I have had a bit of a saga in that I started off knitting the front panel in seed stitch and the back panel in stockinette, only to realize that seed stitch and stockinette have 2 different gauges, row gauges, so they weren't lining up. So I ripped back. I started a couple rows of the Hermione's Everyday pattern at the top here, but that was just getting lost in the tweed and the colors. So I just decided to vanilla sock it for the rest of the way. It is what it is. I want to knit a pair out of one of my Christmas colorways next in this tweed base, and I think I'm gonna do cables instead of like some kind of texture, because I think the tweed is just competing with the texture too much, but I think that cables will complement that nicely. So I will get to Christmas colors in a moment, but these are my Plumpkin Spice socks, and the little mini that came along with it is called Crunchy Leaves. I really love how this colorway dyed up. It's a really beautiful speckle. So I actually think I'm gonna do a heel flapping gusset and the heel turn in the contrast color. Believe it or not, I have not actually done that before. Every time I do a contrast heel, I like to do it as an afterthought heel. I just think it's a lot easier. So I'm assuming, maybe someone can clue me in down below, I would want to like knit a row in this first along that heel before I start, like if I do a slip stitch heel. I guess there's other heels that I could do, but either a slip stitch or an eye of partridge is probably what I was going to do for the heel. So anyway, let me know what you think down below. I'll probably also use it on the toes as a contrast. So these are working up quite nicely. I am happy with them now that I've just sucked it up and buckled down and started working on these. So there are a few of these sock sets still in the shop. I dyed up a second batch of them. If you are looking for some fall colors still, even though I know a lot of you are already putting up Christmas decorations, which I am not mad at that. I am half tempted to go ahead and start putting some up myself. My husband thinks I'm crazy, but hey, he knew what he was getting into, so. Before I pull out my last whip, I just wanted to say I have worked on my swallowtail sweater some. I've done a few rows, but I feel like you have to really get a chunk of that color work done in order to tell a difference. So I'm not even gonna pull it out today. I'm gonna save that for next time to share with you guys. I would love to get that full color work chart done by the next time you see it. So finally, I have my Woodlark Shawl, and this is the pattern that Naomi and I have chosen to knit for the knit along that we are running. It is the Steek Along 2020, so that is the hashtag that you can use on Instagram in order to be entered for prizes. And we also have a group on Ravelry, a joint group called the Curated Felicity group, and there is a thread there for chatter and for posting your projects. So I have finally found the time and the brain space to sit down and work on my Woodlark Shawl some. Again, it's probably not going to look like a ton of progress, and it's very bunched up right now, but I managed to knit this entire color work section, and as you can see, I've started the first row of the next one here since the last time that you guys saw this. The control freak in me has been fighting this pattern, because I feel like it was also, I don't mean this in a bad way, but I feel like it was also written by another control freak. So this is the Woodlark Shawl by Larka of Fiber Tales, and I really enjoy her patterns and her aesthetic, and it's, you know, it's a really pretty shawl. There's just a lot of information being conveyed in the pattern because there's written instructions, there's charts. At some places there are 2 charts for the same section. Naomi and I have kind of chatted about this, and we both feel like maybe some of the charts could have been simplified or combined into one. After I finished my first section, either before or after these bobbles here, I was off on my stitch count. Since then, I have not checked my stitch count again, but somehow my colorwork sections are still matching up. So I'm not sure if that was an error in the pattern or my error or what, but I have just kind of gone with it, and I had to let it go. I had to just start following my intuition a bit instead of trying to obsessively line by line follow the pattern. So I just wouldn't call this a beginner friendly pattern, especially since it has steeks in it. So yes, so the knit along is for anybody who is steeking a pattern. So these are the steeks along the shawl. I also had a time getting the cast on going right, and when I finally did manage to get it right, I only did the 4 steek stitches, and this is my first time steeking, so I'm a little bit nervous that maybe I should have done a few extra stitches in there, but I like to live adventurously. I think as long as I secure it enough, I should be okay. Our knit along is running through the end of the year, so if you are working on something that involves steeks, or if you want to cast something on that involves steeks, there are tons of different patterns out there. It doesn't have to be something big like a shawl or a sweater. There's lots of like mittens and slippers and things that also involve color work and steeking. Once I actually got into the rhythm of this color work the other day, I was like, oh, I'm enjoying this. I don't really feel like I need to sit there and read line by line. I mean, I do need to check the chart on every row, but I don't need to make sure that like I'm doing every single thing exactly right, because intuitively it just kind of flows once there's just a lot of information in that pattern. So yes, I'm really hoping to knock this out soon. I think it's gonna be a really warm, cozy, beautiful winter piece as well. So that does it for me for whips and finished objects and things. The last few things that I want to share with you guys are some things that I have dyed up for the shop as far as Christmas colorways go. Again, it is about that time of year. So without further ado, for 2020, I wanted to dye up a new limited edition colorway for Christmas on the same tweed sock base that I have. So I've been dreaming of a green and gold combination, and this is the Frosted Forest set. So the green skein is the Frosted Forest, and the gold mini down there is called Tinsel Toes, and it is a lovely little speckled skein to go along with this main skein here. And yeah, I don't know, I was really drawn to this palette. I think it's really beautiful. This is the one that I kind of want to cast on a new pair of socks in, as well as another one that I'll get to. which is this beautiful colorway called Vintage Christmas Card. I've been scrolling a lot of Pinterest lately and kind of fell down this vintage retro Christmas card vibe of lots of pastels, but with hints of like the maroon or burgundy, I guess you could call it. So this is kind of my tribute to that. It's called Vintage Christmas Card, obviously. But I think this colorway is really beautiful, and I have a couple of these on some MCN. It was just an extra bag or two of yarn that I had lying around, and I figured a really beautiful colorway deserved to be on this really soft and squidgy base. So I'm actually thinking I want to cast on some socks in this as well. Maybe I'll do a hat or something a little more special since it's MCN, or like a cowl. But yes, I'm thinking some cable-y socks out of one of these would be a really fun kind of Christmas knit. I know that Amy of the Stranded podcast is doing her festive sock along currently, so I had big aspirations to join along. I do every year. I know every year that it's coming up, and yet somehow I'm always knitting a different pair of socks, which I don't know. Maybe I'll go ahead and cast on a new pair so I can get in on the festive sock along fun. I actually have like 2 or 3 other skeins of Christmas colorways in my sock bin, but anyway, I also put up a poll a few weeks ago on Instagram about last year's colorways, asking which one you guys would want to see in the shop again, since they were also kind of limited edition, limited runs that I only really do at the holidays. That was between the Winter Wonderland set and the Christmas Jammies set. So I think this one is mine. That's why it looks so messy. These were both the colorways from last year, and it was honestly pretty much 50-50. So I decided to just go ahead and dye up a few of both of these colorways. So I really love this combination of the like retro aqua with, you know, that bright cardinal red. And then this year, the minis on this set, the Christmas tree colorway, came out a wee bit more neon-y than last year, but that's okay. I really like the way that these pop. I think this would be really fun for kids' Christmas socks. So yeah, these are also in the shop, and I'm just kind of slowly adding a few other things on the side, some minis and mini sets that I'm dyeing up here and there. I'm trying not to put too much pressure on myself, but to keep a little bit of a regular routine going. So can't remember if I said that I was going to share Accquisitions or not, but this just happened to show up today on my doorstep, so I figured might as well share it with you guys. So I didn't do any shopping during the virtual Rhinebeck weekend that they had with all the vendors, but I've known for about a year that I wanted to purchase one of these. I saw Loop at SAF last year, and I was eyeing the bumps, but I didn't feel like I could justify spending the money on one when I had basically been spinning for like 2 or 3 weeks. So yeah, I had my spin-anniversary a few weeks ago, which is really a lot of fun. So I might make another little side video kind of showing you guys the evolution of my spinning over the last year. Maybe give any new spinners out there a little bit of encouragement. But anyway, I wanted to get one of these fiber bumps, gradient bumps from Loop Fiber. This is the So Subtle colorway, and it is all merino wool. So as you can see, it is a lovely subtle palette of grays and creams. And I'm thinking, since it's a gradient, you pull from the center here. I think I'm going to try my first chain ply with this so that it keeps the color repeats the same. I don't have to break it up and like spin multiple bobbins and then ply it. So I've not chain plied anything yet. This will be a fun experience. I did go ahead and opt for the 5-ounce amount. I always go for the largest amount of fiber possible just because you never know. I'm not sure what weight or anything that I want to spin it up as. This might make a good contrast color in a sweater or something. So, All right, guys, so I think that just about does it for me today. If you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. I'm very close to 400 subscribers, so Naomi and I had teased a 400 subscriber giveaway for my channel. I know she's getting ready to do a 500 subscriber giveaway, so hop on over to there and check that out as well. I guess I'll be announcing a giveaway on the next episode if we get there. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye.